Welcome back to LimQ Plus, everyone. On this channel, I'm 100%ing Breath of the Wild by a bit every day until the sequel Tears of the Kingdom comes out, which is today in 30 days. Right now, when I'm recording, 30 days from now, people will be legally playing Tears of the Kingdom. Maybe they got it from the Nintendo eShop in Japan, or they are in Japan, Australia. The game is officially out right now, in 30 days, and that's crazy. Now, I've recently installed a DLC back to my file, and I have to perform the Great Plateau portion of this DLC. I will be doing the first 2 shrines today, but because this gameplay requires lots of focus, I decided that instead of normally talking about Tears of the Kingdom, I'm gonna teach you some strats that you may not know about the DLC yet from somebody that has played the game a lot, show you relatively optimal gameplay for going through this DLC without too much hassle, and that's what I'm doing. Allows me to get through this section, which is pretty hard, probably the hardest section of the game, normally casually, a little bit faster. Now, step number 1, put on something warm. We're going to be heading up next to Cryonis, and I don't want to die to cold damage, because while having the Wanted Obliterator equipped, you only have a quarter heart. Now, only having a quarter heart does actually not stop you from doing wind bombs. There's a trick you can do. If you do a wind bomb and then eat some, for example, a hearty food just before you actually do the wind bomb, your health is still ticking down as you take the wind bomb damage. So that helps you getting around a little bit more easy. We're getting to the Yowaka Itaa shrine here. And honestly, the most annoying part about the shrine is not the enemies, it's the keys swarm that's flying around here. So I like taking it out with any bomb arrow shot, which will dispose of it, and then take my first Wanted Obliterator attack to take down the very strong 720 damage enemy. Now for the other enemies here, one thing that's extremely powerful is the use of ice arrows. Now this guy will actually die to a headshot, so does this guy. This guy dies to any ice arrow attack. By doing an ice arrow there, I basically just lured that red bokoblin over. And what makes ice arrows so powerful is that, for example, that black boko over there is now frozen. I can take out this guy and have all the time in the world to fly down and use my one-hit obliterator attack to take care of him. Another thing that's really powerful in this is the Champion's Tunic, and that's kind of unexpected because the Champion's Tunic normally isn't that useful, but being able to see enemies that otherwise you wouldn't see is quite nice here, simply by seeing their HP bars, so I recommend having the Champion's Tunic equipped during this. Makes this a little bit easier with your planning. That's the first shrine taken care of, Yowaka Itaa. As you can tell, bow and arrow in this section of the map are extremely powerful. Ice arrow is really powerful. I would also recommend long-range bows, like the Falcon bow I have here, or the Swallow bow. Makes this a lot more bearable. Now, normally in this series, and even in speedruns, you do... Well, it's different, right? Normally in this series, I don't have to get shrines completed. I only have to find them. That gives me the location, and my percentage actually just went up from 98.53 to 98.61. But because I need to get the other DLC shrines out of the ground, I also need to solve them to spawn the monuments around the world that will then spawn the quests to get the other shrines out of the ground. Now, that's actually possible. You can get the other shrines out of the ground without getting these shrines out of the ground using shrine coordinate warps. It's the #1 DLC strat for speedruns. Unfortunately, that wouldn't work for us because we would not get the full completion from getting the shrines out here. Now, thankfully, we have fast strats for these shrines. One is something called a selfie clip that I just performed. I put on my camera, went into selfie mode, and that flick of the camera actually clipped me through the wall, completely skipping the very annoying, anxiety-inducing puzzle of the Yowaka Itaa shrine. That's quite nice. The unique nature of getting the map meter up to 100% actually would make for a pretty fun DLC speedrun, just because you actually have to get the shrines out of the ground. If you've ever seen a more new DLC speedrun, you don't even pick up the Wanted Obliterator anymore. You use the shrine coordinate warp strategies to enter these shrines while they are still underground without ever officially entering the DLC. And what makes it so powerful is that when you do the shrines without the Wanted Obliterator, you don't only have a quarter health. You can actually do as many wind bombs as you want, and even your fairies will work. Normally fairies in speedruns are really broken now. I have one right now, but if you have the Wanted Obliterator on you, fairies don't work. Doing these shrine coordinate warps makes it so that fairies will work anyways, allowing for faster completion of the shrines. But with these unique circumstances of the game, where we actually have to beat the shrines to then get more locations and eventually reach 100% completion, we actually have to do the full DLC normally, and I'm showing off some cool combat strats for them. Now this, in my opinion, is likely the scariest of the camps, mainly because we have keys in play. I think it's pretty much a race between this one and the next one. No, not the next one. The last one I'm going to be doing in this playthrough. Again, I'm only doing the first two today. Starting with another wind bomb. And one thing that's really scary with these wind bombs is that the one obliterator can actually trigger the bombs, making things go really awkward. Really want to avoid this. But yeah, this is definitely in the race for the most annoying shrine, for the simple fact that there's ice keys and ice choo-choos, enemies that are extremely annoying to deal with if you are on low HP. So if I die here, it happens. Let's try not to, but it's definitely a possibility. Now I'm going to start by shooting a fire over here. This is going to alert the ice choo-choo, not choo-choo, sorry, whiz rope, and then give me time to go over here and use the AoE attack on the ice choo-choo there and the enemy. Now technically you don't have to defeat the ice, sorry. Oh wow, that guy was going crazy. Technically you don't have to defeat the ice choo-choo enemies. They don't count towards the completion. But their explosions make this section pretty scary, so I like taking care of them anyway most of the time. Here you can see again the power of ice arrows kind of stalling enemies. I was really just trying to get into bullet time. Thankfully I was able to do it there. Arrows in this are your best friend. I'm very scared that bow and arrows are still gonna be as broken in Tears of the Kingdom as they are in Breath of the Wild. You can see it here, using the right elemental arrows in terms of ice arrows to stall enemies, to use your one-hit obliterator's powerful attack, and fire arrows to one-shot other elemental enemies, makes for a really strong combo. Now I'm a bit scared of Yowaka, Etsu Korima, and I will explain why. I'm gonna go for the fastest strat. Well, the second fastest strat in the shrine. And it can definitely backfire. And it will look really stupid if it does. Let's hope it doesn't. The fastest strat requires clipping out of bounds and performing some wind bombs, but without sufficient fairies and with the one obliterator, that's actually quite inefficient. And thankfully I was able to do what I was talking about there, which is blocking these lasers while still walking forward. Sometimes for some reason that block does not work properly. Thankfully, it did. Now this section of the shrine is a little bit boring. It gets a little bit more boring until the very end, where it then again gets very scary. Where we have some guardians falling down that have really powerful laser attacks that I'm hoping to avoid. Now here I'm gonna play it slow. I could have actually made that cycle. Normally when you do this in speedruns, you always do this with speed food. But as long as you're careful here, and you look at the flames kind of like signals, you're fine. Now, let's hope we don't get unlucky here. This section is scary. These guardians have insanely good aim to the point where sometimes you think they're like cheating. And they will hit you no matter where you are. So I'm definitely glad to be able to avoid them here. And finish Etsu Korima. Shrine number 2 of the DLC. Now, this was a little bit of commentary for the DLC of the Plateau. Probably the hardest section of the DLC. If not the entire casual playthrough. Maybe aside of the Child of the Sword and Master Mode. I hope you learned something new. Again, this is hard for me to do. And it's also annoying. So I'm trying to just get through this as fast as possible. Which is the reason I'm focusing more on gameplay. In today's episode and tomorrow's episode, you can see 98.69%. Tomorrow, I'll continue with the other 2 shrines and then go back to discussing more Tears of the Kingdom stuff. But thank you for watching, and I hope to see you guys tomorrow when there's only 29 days till Tears of the Kingdom. Enjoy the rest of your day.